Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 15th and tonight's movie is The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock is known for his thrillers, some of which I've reviewed for Horror Nights in the past. But when it comes to Hitchcock horror movies, there are two main examples. The first is Psycho, and the other one is this, The Birds. From what I can tell, this is a movie where every bird in the world just said, hey, let's kill the humans. Obviously, one bird on its own isn't going to do much. Considering how many birds there are in the world, like so many more than there are humans, if every bird on the planet did decide to attack, it would be really hard to fight back. If there was a movie with the same concept, only with bugs, it would be even worse. I have not loved any Hitchcock movie I've seen. I thought that Psycho is overrated. Vertigo, Rear Window, they were okay. By the way, when I rented this movie, there's usually a trailer that comes with it, but this one, it was just Alfred Hitchcock in a study talking at the camera about the history of birds and about how his movie is going to be a lecture about them. He seems really full of himself, and I've heard stories about him being a bad person. Then again, if we only wanted to watch stuff from good people, our options would be limited. Anyway, I'm gonna go watch The Birds. I'm gonna bring the biggest seed bell I have. No, wait, that one is too big. I'm going to give The Birds a 7 out of 10. Rear Window is still the most solid Hitchcock movie I've seen, but this one had its moments. I'm not going to split this review up because there really isn't much to spoil in this movie. Birds attack the people. There's not really any twists or turns. Apparently, it's not a worldwide bird apocalypse. It seems to be focused on this one small town, but I don't think the people in the town really cared if it was just them or the entire world when the birds were attacking. I imagine that it's hard to try to choreograph what a organized bird attack would look like, because every time it happens in this movie, it just seems like pure chaos. Just birds flying everywhere. I mean, the effects aren't great, but they're not, awful. One thing they did that I thought was smart was that they had, a couple bird attacks happen, and then there'll be parts in the movie where there will be dozens, hundreds of birds all in one place, and the characters are trying to be really quiet to not set them off because they've seen what happens when the birds all attack. So the scenes with the birds are pretty effective, about as effective as I was expecting. It was everything else that was a little weird about this. The pacing in this movie is very bizarre. Normally, in a movie like this, you have the first act to establish the characters, the second act for the building up of events, and then the third act is the climax. This one is just a really long first act and then a really long second act. This movie is 2 hours long, and it's over an hour before the birds really start attacking, and there isn't really any sort of climax to this movie at all. The movie just kind of stops. We spend a lot of time with these characters, and the cast is okay. The two leads, Melanie and Mitch, they're fine, I guess. They are kind of weird with the way that they interact, especially at the beginning, but I'll get to that later. The woman who played Mitch's mother, Jessica Tandy, she did amazing with her performance. The person who was playing Mitch's little sister, Kathy, wasn't the best, but she was a kid. Kind of strange, because if this movie was made today, the kid would probably be the best actor out of all of them. The way that this movie began was just so strange to me. We got the meeting of Melanie and Mitch, and it's sort of like as a love-hate sort of thing, and they start messing with each other, but they mess with each other in very elaborate ways. Melanie is this rich, bored socialite, so she has nothing but time on her hands, and the lengths that she is willing to go to just to pull her little prank is really off-putting. It's harmless, but it could be considered criminal stalking. I think the movie is trying to play it as cute, but it's not cute. If the woman that you talk to once at a pet shop somehow manages to find the family home that you go to during the weekends and surprise you by dropping off 2 birds in your house because you offhandedly mentioned you were getting some for your little sister, that's a lot. Melanie is certainly a different kind of leading lady than you would normally get in a horror movie, especially in this time period. I'm not going to say that the first half of the movie is completely disconnected from the second half. There was, little breadcrumbs of something going on with the birds. But it's a long time to establish these characters in this setting. They never explain why the birds are attacking. They never even try to explain why. It's such a bizarre thing to even imagine that nobody can even guess. It really does seem to be only the birds in this area, too, because the 2 birds that Melanie brought were from hours away in San Francisco, and they were never a problem even once. So I guess it really is just the birds in Bodega Bay. There's this hysterical woman at one point who says that she thinks that Melanie caused all this to happen. Like, I don't know, she's a bird witch or something. There's nothing that comes from that. I guess this is a situation where less is more can be understandable. Like, do we really care about the thought processes of these birds? In fact, probably the biggest action part of this movie wasn't even caused by the birds directly. They attacked a gas station attendant, caused a gas spill, and then someone over on the other side of the road who pulled up to where the gas was puddling up, lit a cigar, dropped a match, exploded, and then caused the entire gas station to explode. And by the way, I'm pretty sure this part was pure Hitchcock, and I have no idea what he was thinking. During the time when the fire was going from that one car to the gas station, it kept cutting back and forth between the fire spreading and Melanie looking at it, and her face never moved in the shot, it just moved between shots. So it was like spread, stare somewhere else, spread, stare, and it was so bizarre. The closest way I could describe it was comedic. I also question some of the choices they made for the sounds that they used for the birds. At some point, you could hear pretty clear auto-tune. For the most part, The Birds was pretty much what I was expecting it to be. It was good when it was good, and it was boring when it wasn't. It's a really bizarre concept, but it was executed decently well. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.